Welcome to the Leading Visionaries podcast, featuring stellar conversations with emerging and established leading visionaries. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate and spotlight the leading visionaries who are thinking differently, seeing new possibilities, have the courage to dream big, take inspired action, and create conscious change all around the world. Now, here's your host, Anjel B. Hartwell.
Welcome to another episode of the Leading Visionaries podcast, where we celebrate the ingenious, insightful, innovative, and inspired leading visionaries of our time and provide our listeners with world-class examples of the kind of courage, clarity, and confidence it takes to bring visions into reality. This is your host, Anjel B. Hartwell, and today we welcome our special guest, Sally Gimon. Working full-time in 2019, Sally wholesaled 7 bank-owned properties. When she did her taxes, she had to get on a payment plan with the IRS for capital gains. She researched Rockefeller's trust and found the business and beneficial Spendthrift trusts. Now she works with U.S. business owners, 1099 income earners, and investors to save federal taxes legally. I am super excited to have you here today, Sally. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me on your show. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, this show is called Leading Visionaries. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to start talking about your leadership. I like to start talking about your vision. So why don't we talk a little bit about what was the vision that got you into real estate investing in the first place? And then we'll talk a little bit more about your leadership.
Okay. A friend of mine invited me to a real estate meeting back in 2018. And I said to him, I'm a Medicare broker. We're going into open enrollment, which happens October through December. Let me put this on hold. This is 2018. My oldest nephew got married in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was living in Phoenix. My mom and dad were living in Goodyear, Arizona, about 20 miles west of Phoenix. My parents drove from Goodyear to Charlotte. Along the way, my mom got dehydrated and she got septic blood or blood poisoning. She was on a ventilator for 13 months, in a hospital for 15 months. Thank God she got better. But my parents, who were going to be gone for 2 weeks, ended up staying in the Charlotte area for more than 9 months. And my dad literally only had clothes for a few days. So for me personally, I worked until 8 o'clock the night before the wedding, Friday night, because open enrollment, drove myself to Sky Harbor Airport. Did a red eye to Charlotte. My nephew met me, family tradition. You go to IHOP for breakfast. Then we went to go see my mom at the hospital. I knew she was sick, but we walked in and the priest was giving her last rites. I mean, my world was like, my mom's getting last rites. I go to a wedding at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and had a lot of fun. I was going out to their house once a week to do the mail because my dad was gone for 9 months. In December of 2018, a letter that was 27 pages thick was my mom's Medicare statement for the first month in the hospital. When I opened it up, unfolded the letter, it said in big bold black letters, $72,000. My dad, retired military officer, they had TRICARE for life, but I'm standing in my parents' kitchen and I'm like, I'm $184,000 in debt. I have a mortgage. My brand new 3-week-old car driving to work in the morning. A guy ran the red light, T-boned me, didn't have gap insurance. He didn't have insurance, had to get a second car. Had student loans, had credit card debt. So right then and there, I called Glenn back and I am like, Glenn, I need to change my life today. He's like, next week, Sally, we're having a Christmas potluck. Get a $5 gift and bring some food. Went to a party where I knew nobody, started talking to people. And like you said, in 2019, still working full time. I wholesale 7 houses. I'm a rock star in my real estate group, paid off all my debt, doing really, really well until my CPA calls me and says, I need you to make an appointment, come in to see me because we have some things to talk about. He tells me at the meeting, I owe $79,000 in short-term capital gains. And my stomach dropped to my feet, kept it together, shook hands with him. He put me on a payment plan and got my parking validated, went down to the parking garage, and I literally cried for 20 minutes. I don't know if you know about wholesaling. It's feast or famine. You wholesale something, you've got money. Other times, you don't have money.
Right.
Drove home during the sunset because Scottsdale's east of Phoenix, tears running down my face. My great aunt Kitty in Ireland always made a comment, sleep on it. Put something in your subconscious mind, think about it, and you'll have a solution.
Mm.
I wake up the next morning, 5 a.m., and going, where's that book? In my national real estate group, Garrett Gunderson wrote a book called What the Rockefellers Do. I had a paper copy of that, and I used that book to research the Spendthrift Trust. I started both my business and beneficial Spendthrift Trust September of 2000 and started teaching in my real estate group because everybody wants to save taxes. And it's changed my life only for the better.
Beautiful. So what I want to point out for our listeners there is that you had a sudden epiphany after sleeping on it, that you already actually had the solution available to you, or
Correct.
there was a resource available to you to at least look, right?
Correct.
So that to me is like an inspiration from the divine. I always call that like,
I think so.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books, Power of Your Subconscious Mind, it helps you make decisions so easily.
Totally. So let's talk a little bit about your leadership, and then we're going to get back into this story. Before you got into the real estate game, were you always kind of a leader? Were you always somebody who had, outshone or outshined other people? Or was it when you ended up in the real estate business that suddenly you elevated into a leadership role?
My mother left Ireland, rural Ireland, at 16. She had not known electricity, and she went straight to London where everything was electric. If you know the PBS show Call the Midwife, my mom learned to be a nurse, and she was making her way around the world. She met my dad in a very small town in Alaska. They got married. And when I was 5 years old, I asked my mom for $10 for a lemonade stand. I wasn't allowed to sell the lemonade we were living in townhouses, but we were right next door to Three Rivers Stadium. I do not know how the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers heard about me. My next door neighbor was a Pittsburgh Steelers football player. He knocked on the door and he asked my mom if I would come and sell lemonade to his players after practice on Saturday. My mom's like, "Who are you and why would I do this?" And my grandfather, my dad's parents lived in Pittsburgh. My grandfather's like, "I'll drive you." This is before they won their first Super Bowl. That one time, I made $165 after I paid my mom back, paid for the sugar, paid my grandfather for gas, everything else. And then Hurricane Agnes came up the Ohio River, flooded everything, and my cardboard lemonade stand was ruined. And I can remember my mom saying to me, "You made enough money." And I turned to her, I'm like, "No, I haven't."
Uh-huh.
I think I've always wanted to be my own boss, doing my own things, because being an insurance agent, it's the same thing. Oh, you're asking the same questions over and over and over again, and it gets very monotonous.
All right. Well, so it sounds like you've always had an entrepreneurial bent for
Correct.
sure. So when you started in the real estate game, like, did you quickly leave working the insurance agent gig, or did you maintain two roles simultaneously for a while? Because some of the listeners are, we've got listeners all around the world, and many of them have vision for creating something different for themselves. So they get inspired by hearing from people like yourself about
Correct.
the path. So can you tell us a little bit about your path moving from being in the insurance business, unless you still are? You might be, I don't know.
I still have my license. I don't want to give that up. True story. I let it be known that I was only going to work until the end of March of 2020 because I was doing quite well. We were on a special call campaign in November that we were working. I don't want to say which insurance Medicare plan, but it was for Texas. I called a woman here in the United States. When you turn 65, you have 3 months before your birthday, and then 3 months afterwards to get onto an Advantage plan. I called her on the campaign in early November, went over everything. She calls me back before Thanksgiving, and I said, "Did anything change?" She goes, "Oh, I moved 4 miles." I'm like, "Oh, let me update your address." She was in El Paso, moved 4 miles over to the New Mexico border. That changed everything because Medicare's done different things. I sent a message to my manager who was in a meeting saying, "Hey, I have to give her, I'm licensed in New Mexico, but I have to give her new policies." He comes over to me and he goes, "Did you issue the policy?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Don't issue the policy." She calls me back November 30th, the day she's got to start the policy, she's like, I got to get this started. I'm licensed in New Mexico. I'm going to make money for my company. I issued the policy. Let my manager know. He comes over and goes, you're fired. And I'm like, because I sold something? And the next day, December 1st, I wholesaled a house where I made $8,000. And I'm like, I don't need this job anymore. It put me a little bit behind, if that makes sense. I had planned, you have health care, you have, pension, things like that. But I had things in motion to quit in 3 months. I just quit a little bit earlier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, great. You had already, this is one of the things that's important for people who are contemplating starting their own gig. You had already proven to yourself that you could do it, that you could generate the revenue that you needed, that you could do the wholesaling and so forth. So excellent. All right. Well, I want to talk about the whole taxes thing and this beneficial spendthrift trusts that you discovered with the Rockefellers. I want to make sure that we have enough time to really get into that. So I might take a quick break now. But before we go to the break, if there was one thing you wanted to say to the listeners out there who are contemplating making a shift that you did for yourself, like, was there some kind of internal head game that you had to have to be able to make that shift? Or do you have people around you who supported you? Like, what was one thing that you recall from that time that allowed you to feel supported in that?
Great question. I'm a student of Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher, Thinking Into Results. I had paid I was making money being a wholesaler. I purposely had a coach. And I have to say, having someone to talk to, have someone to help things out. My coach, Susan Ma, was essential for me to put the plan together. Unfortunately, it was 3 months earlier, but I had a plan all set up to do things. And I really do think people have somebody who can help you through the transition, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Absolutely. When I made my transition 20 plus years ago, I just took a flying leap because I knew I couldn't stay.
Good for you.
Yeah, I was in the real estate business and I knew I couldn't stay for one more second. Like, I was going to die if I stayed there. And that old identity did die. However, if there was something I could send back to my younger self, it would be hire somebody who can help you faster and hire somebody who can help you, who's already created or supported other people to create what you are looking to create. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about how we can save people federal taxes legally. Excellent. Right now, though, listeners, are you a leading visionary or in the role of leading other visionaries? Consider joining our community and sharing your feedback and takeaways from each episode. We invite you to join us and support this podcast by making a donation at leadingvisionariespodcast.com. Interested in finding out more about how you can receive support for getting your vision out of the air and onto the ground? Well, you can apply to qualify for a complimentary consultation with me or a member of my team by clicking the Connect with Anjel button on the website. Be sure to share this show in your own spirals of influence with the people who you think might benefit from our content. I want to say a huge thank you to all of our listeners who are downloading, rating, and reviewing. We're welcoming thousands and thousands of downloads from all over the world. I want to shout out this week to our listeners in the Bahamas, Ireland, since we mentioned Ireland, and we might as well shout out to our listeners in the Charlotte area. And we will be right back with Sally Gimon.
The Leading Visionaries podcast is brought to you by the Creative Age Consulting Group. Are you the one who thinks differently, who is called to create a significant conscious change in the world, who is seeing and dreaming of a better way for your industry, your community, humanity? Creative Age Consulting Group is hired to guide leading visionaries just like you who want to break through the static in order to clearly express and confidently enroll support for their vision in a way that makes it inevitable that it will come to pass. Your word is your wand, and as the leader, your ability to articulate and communicate your vision is essential to its materialization and monetization. Please enjoy with our compliments a free copy of the book, Be Heard by Millions and Live Your Destiny. which was a #1 new release in 3 categories to get you started. The book is yours by visiting gift.leadingvisionariespodcast.com.
And we are back with Sally Gimon. I want you to know where you can find out more about her work with people, helping them to save federal taxes legally. We're going to dive right into that after this little message here, but you can find her at bit.ly/, and this is all capitals, LVP, which stands for Leading Visionaries Podcast, Trust, all in capital letters, TRUST. And we will have that clickable link for you in the show notes. So, Sally, why don't you briefly go over what they're going to find when they get to your website?
When you get to the website, I have my monthly meeting as a free download. So few people have ever heard of the Spendthrift Trust. This is what the uber rich know about. Back when the tax code went into effect February of 1913, the Barron families, the Carnegies, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, and the Kennedys put this in the tax code. With the business trust, if you're a U.S. business owner or a 1099 income earner, you will save at least 90% on your federal income taxes. If you get everything into the trust, 43 states in the union have either state income taxes or personal income taxes that you can save on that too. So my clients are saving thousands of dollars. If you're an investor, beneficial trusts will help the investors. But today, I just worked with a client who has 2 pizzerias. In 2023, they make about $180,000. A husband and wife with 2 pizzerias. In 2023, we saved them $27,193. That's their money. They can pay off their mortgage. They can buy a new car. They can give to charity, do what they want. Roberto called me today and he's like, we just opened our 3rd location with the money we saved. And he's invited me on Saturday to come for the ribbon cutting and have free pizza. Me? Free pizza? I'm there. So yes.
Excellent. Beautiful. All right. So listeners, definitely please make sure that you make your way there, especially if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, and you're looking to save on your taxes. So let's talk, Sally, about here you are. You are now on a payment plan with the federal government. You wake up and know that you need to go get that book, what the Rockefellers do, right? And so I want to hear what happened for you next. Once you read the book, then you discovered this beneficial trust. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Correct. I used every name, Googled people, and I became a client of the law firm. I talked to the person who helped me get the trust. I said I would like to do a mastermind in my real estate group in Phoenix. He's just like, I signed up as a
referral partner,
a partner with it. I sent an email to the gentleman who ran the group. 2 days, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I'm like, he hasn't responded. Again, my coach, Susan Moss, says, maybe he hasn't been on email. Give it another 24 hours, give him 3 days, and then send another email. And he writes back right away. He goes, I am so sorry. My computer died on me. I'm like, oh, okay. He was my friend. He was my mentor, and he ran the real estate group. I was the first female mastermind in my real estate group, teaching every Thursday night, 6:00, about the Spendthrift Trust. Fast forward, unfortunately, he and I were in a real estate deal. I'm visiting family at Christmas, and I checked my bank account, and I'm $5,000 short. So I just sent a simple text saying, hey, what happened to our agreement? Next day we get on a Zoom, and I don't know who showed up. He's like, you're calling me a thief, you're calling me a liar, da-da-da. I'm putting your mastermind on hold for 6 weeks because I can't trust you anymore. I'm like, you owe me $5,000, not, things like that. So I contacted my coach again, and she says, I have 3 things for you to do. You need to move, you need to get a new real estate group, and you need to start doing your own business. She goes, start your own company, start teaching people about this, because so many people should know about how to save taxes. And my joke with Susan was, can you give me something simple? Hey, lose 10 pounds or something? That would be so much easier. But I did all 3 things.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the success stories. You've already talked about the pizza guy, but let's talk about maybe your own. How much have you saved for yourself on taxes, and how you have helped other people and clients to do the same.
I started both the business and the beneficial trust in September of 2020. So in 3 years, I have wholesaled 29 houses. I have 12 notes where I have the paper on the house. I don't own the house. People pay me their mortgage. I have 4 rentals. I have a crypto bot. I have 3 online businesses, and I have saved 6 figures in federal taxes. In 2022, I only paid 8% on my 3 online businesses. I saved 92%. The last house I just wholesaled, I moved to North Carolina to do a thing called upset bids. I got the house for $260,000. I wholesaled it for $310,000, and I saved almost $9,000 in short-term capital gains on that one house. I mean, this is what the trust does for me over and over again.
Beautiful. Well, that's amazing. So how about another client success story?
One of my clients, true story, he's a dentist in Orange County. His wife is a school teacher. I can't help her at all. Her W-2 income, I can't touch. He had his dentist practice in an LLC that was affecting them. When you start the trust, you get a new EIN or employee identification number and open a new bank account. They're going to save over $29,000 a year doing this. We lowered their taxes. He's going to save federal taxes and California state taxes. Their tax rate was at 34%. It went down to 24%. As we're having the Zoom meeting, she's telling her husband, I want to quit teaching. I'll finish out the school year. We'll get our kids out of daycare. I'll be a stay-at-home mom, and then we'll really save a lot of money. And, it's changing people's lives because they don't realize how much they're paying in taxes and how much it can change things. And the dentist is just like, I can pay off my student loans. I can get better equipment. I can do this. I can do that. And it's just, a beautiful thing. I'm helping a young family. Their oldest is in 2nd grade and their second child is in kindergarten this year. So the kids will have a mother at home and they can do things together. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I love coming home making cookies with her.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I started my own business when I had my spiritual awakening and left the real estate business, working from home using speaking. And I was the mom who brought the brownies to every football game. So I know what that's like and how important it is to be
exactly
present for your kiddos. So excellent. So the benefits here, more than just money, is what we're hearing, Sally. And I just want our listeners to really hear that, what I love about what Sally's bringing here is it's ingenious. It's taking and leveraging what's already existing in the tax code, but you just don't know about it. And
exactly.
I'm sure purposefully so, most people do not know about this, but now Sally is here as the evangelist teaching us all.
Well,
so
when someone makes an appointment with me, I take them out to NerdWallet. It's a free website, show them the formula for their taxes. I send them 3 articles from Forbes magazine. In the Forbes magazine, each time it says you need to be making at least $3 million to have this trust. And I'm like, the average person joining my real estate group is a 56-year-old man trying to make some money to retire in 10 years. Yes, I make some money off the trust, but I try to make it convenient for, Roberto and Marianne, my husband and wife have the 2 pizzerias. They're going to be saving almost $30,000 every single year. That's changing their lives. When they retire in 30, 35, they're going to have everything paid for and have money. Their children are going to inherit the pizzerias and not pay inheritance tax. And they too will save 1099 income. They're leaving a legacy for generations to come, if that makes sense.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, and so what I'm hearing there also is that there's false information out there about this particular vehicle, that you have to have $3 million, but you're saying, no, that's not the case.
Correct. And some very rich, the US presidents have this trust, athletes have this trust. I want to help the average business owner, average investor. If a husband and wife, just to give you an idea, if a husband and wife are at 24% tax rate and they do a fix and flip on a house and make $50,000, they will save $12,000 in capital gains on that one house. do 2 fix and flips or 2 wholesale deals in a year, you've paid for the trust, and it's going to continue going from generation to generation. When I talk to people, they're like, this sounds like they think it's not true. But on the first page of the IRS tax code, it says it's up to each individual to figure out how to save taxes. And again, I followed the breadcrumbs that the rich had left me to find out for myself. And I do think I want to help other people because other people should know about this too.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming today, Sally. Clearly you have passion for this. Clearly you have vision for this. Clearly you want to lead in this way. And so those of us who are here listening to the Leading Visionaries podcast, I want you to all hear how important it is to have that kind of passion and devotion to your vision. And so you certainly are embodying that today, Sally. Thank you so much. So we are at the end. Listeners, we do love feedback. Please let us know what you thought of today's show by joining our community, sharing your takeaways, asking questions, or submitting guest suggestions. You can weave your visionary thread into our fabric by opting in on our website at leadingvisionariespodcast.com or by interacting with us on social. Look for the handle at Leading Visionaries Podcast on all the major platforms. Thanks so much for tuning in. Keep your eyes, ears, and hearts open. And remember, you are here to create conscious change.
Thanks for tuning in, downloading, and listening. Be sure to rate and review Leading Visionaries on Apple Podcasts and share with other people you know who can benefit from today's episode. Leading Visionaries is the premier podcast series for informing, activating, and inspiring the leading visionaries who are called to create conscious change and know that now is the best time to welcome wealth and cultivate a web of collaborative support to bring their vision to life. We invite your feedback and guest suggestions and invite you to subscribe to our mailing list to be notified of new episodes at leadingvisionariespodcast.com.